Congratulations for completing the last section. Slowly we are revising all the concepts, right? In this section also we are going to cover 3 topics, which are loops, conditions and exception handling. And here is the list of 9 questions. They are very basic questions, but sometimes in interviews we do not remember the things in a proper manner, right? Again, if any question is too easy for you, then or I am speaking slowly, then you can just increase the playback speed of this video. Now here is a simple question, but interviewer may ask you if you have like 0 to 3 years of experience. So what are the loop types in C#? Now let's quickly go through it. First is while loop. Here is the code block. First, initialization happening before the loop starts, then condition is set with the while keyword, and then after all the logic is performed, then last increment has to be done inside the loop at the end. That's it, sweet and simple. And here is the output of the while loop 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Until the condition is true, it will keep printing the result. Now second is do while loop, and here is the code. Now the only difference between while and do while is the statement inside. In case of do while, the statement inside do will must execute first time irrespective of the while condition. Any condition is there, first time this do will definitely execute whether the condition is true or not. Okay, so that is do while loop. Now here you can see the output, it is 100. Even though the condition is false, even it is printed because j is to 100 and it is not lesser than 10, right? The condition is failed, but still the output is printed as 100. So this is do while loop. Next is the for loop, very useful loop for developers. Here you will do the initialization, condition and increment in one line only. This is better than while loop as the number of lines of code are lesser here. It will keep printing until the condition is true, and here is the output. Last one is a very important loop and we call it for each loop. This is mostly used with the collections like arraylist, dictionary, so that kind of collections it is mostly used. So suppose we have an array like this. Now we want to iterate all the elements of the array one by one. One way is to use the for or while loop, but there you have to check the count of the elements, right? The number of the elements. Also you have to you have to increment the values manually, like you have to write I plus plus something like this. But with for each loop you will just use the type like this, and for each will allow you to loop through the collection without even checking the count or doing the increment, and the output is same. So for each is better when you iterate some collection. So now you know what are the types of loops, when we should use what kind of loop, right? That is also important to know. What is the difference between continue and break statement? First, continue keyword. Okay, see, when a loop will start from 0, then it will start printing the values, but when the I variable will be equal to 3, then it will go inside this if condition. It will see the continue keyword. Now the role of the continue keyword is to stop the execution here and transfer the execution to the start of the loop back again. And see, this will be the output. The loop is printing 0, 1, 2, and then when it sees 3, it will goes inside, it will back to the top, and then it will skip the 3, and then it will print the 4. So the definition is continue statement end the loop iteration and transfer the control to the beginning of the loop. Now let me show you the break. Here is the code, the same code, but now it has been break instead of continue. Now when I is equal to 3, it will see break keyword, and then it will not go to the top of the loop like continue, but this break statement will end the loop iteration and transfer the control out of the loop, or you can say the break statement will exit from the loop, and this will be the output. See, the loop stops after printing 2 because break keyword exit the loop and no further execution of the loop will happen. So the definition is break statement end the loop iteration and exit the loop. This is the difference. What are the alternative ways of writing if-else conditions? This is a very simple question. I hope you already know if-else condition. Here is a sample of it. We have if condition and then else if, and the last condition is like this. Now, if level is software engineer, then salary should be 70,000. If salary is equal to 1 lakh, else 1 lakh 50,000. Okay. Now, there are other ways to write the same if else condition so that you can minimize the number of lines of code. One is switch statement. Here you will just pass the level like this, and this case keyword will check the value. If it is SC, then salary equal to 70,000, and it will break. This break keyword will take the control out of the switch statement. This is one way. Okay. Now the another way to write this if else condition is ternary operators. This question mark and colon are called ternary operators. Here if level is equal to SC, and that is true, this salary variable will be equal to the immediate option available after the question mark. In this case, if this is true, then salary will be 70,000. But if this is false, then value after the colon will be set to the variable, or we can check the further condition again. Here we are again checking the condition, and if this is true, salary variable will like 1 lakh. And if this condition is false, then salary will be the value which is just after the quotes, and here it is 1 lakh 50,000. So now you know all the three options and you can use any one of them. Now the next part of the question is when to use what. If you have one condition, you are setting only one variable throughout like this. See here in this if else condition, we are only setting the salary variable. Okay, only one variable. For this type, best option is to use ternary operators. Single line of code will do this, right? But when you are not setting just one variable but doing some different things, for example, you are printing something via writing console, console.writeLine here, then ternary operator is not the best option because it is suitable for the setting the values of the variable. Different logic will not fit inside this. For that, you can use case statement or if else condition, and here you can write any numbers of lines of logic. Okay, but in the case of case statement, you must have only one condition and checking only one variable. See here, if in the if else condition, if you can see, we are checking only one condition in if and else if, and also one variable value is checked. So it is better to use switch and case because then the like in case of switch, the lines of code are less. But if you have multiple condition inside one if condition, for example, multiple conditions here inside the if bracket using and or operators, or you are checking the values of multiple variables, for that switch is also not a good option. Then you have to use if else condition only. So that's why if else condition will if else condition will accommodate all kinds of condition. So if possible, then use ternary or switch statements. That way your code will be clean, readable and short. But if it is not if not possible, there are multiple conditions and multiple like lines of statements, then you should use if else only. How to implement exception handling in C#? Exception handling in object-oriented programming is used to manage errors. Here you can see keywords try, catch and finally. A try block is a block of code inside which any error can occur. Okay. Now when any error will occur in try block, then it is passed to catch block to handle it. In real applications, if any error in try block, then inside the catch block, we write the exception in the logs files, okay, so that later developers can see that log files and can fix that error. At last, finally block is used to execute a given set of a statement, whether an exception or error occur or not. For example, in this case, you see finally is printed even we got the error by dividing 0 by 0. If no error, then still the finally will be printed. That is the use of finally. Can we execute multiple catch blocks? The answer is no. We can write multiple catch blocks like this, but when we will run the application and if any error will occur, only one out of them will be executed based on the type of the error. See in the code here, we have two catch blocks, but when application will run and error will come, then only one out of these catch blocks will run at a time. Now you can ask then why we have written multiple catch blocks here. The reason is might be you want to handle different errors in different ways. For example, suppose if there is an arithmetic exception error, you want to write some alert, okay? But for other errors, you do not want to write any alert. So that is the purpose of multiple catch blocks. When to use finally in real applications? For example, here you are declaring a SQL connection and then you are opening it, right? Now due to any reason, if some error will occur here, then how the connection will close? Because con.close statement will not get executed, right? And if your connection will remain open, that is not good for performance. So for that reason, we can have the finally block. And you can write this con.close inside the finally block so that whether error will occur or not, this will always run. So the answer is finally block is mostly used to dispose the unwanted objects when they are no longer required. That is good for performance, otherwise you have to wait for garbage collector to dispose them. Can we have only try block without catch block? The answer is yes, we can have try block, but then we must have finally block without catch block, okay? So this is the code. Here there is no catch block, okay? But when we need the try and finally together without the catch, now this inside the try block, if the code go inside if condition, then the method will return from here, right? And the lines after this will not be executed. The con.close will never executed. So to make sure it will execute, we will put this con.close in the finally block. Now you can return from anywhere in the method, but the finally will definitely execute. That's why try and finally are sometimes good without the catch. What is the difference between finally and finalize? This is a silly question. Their name is somewhat similar, but they have no relation. But as it is an important question, so we will cover it. Finally is used for exception handling, right? Finalize is a method which is automatically called by the garbage collector to dispose the no longer needed objects. Garbage collection I will explain in other videos, but these are the differences between finally and finalize. Now here is a very important question from interview perspective. What is the difference between throw x and throw? Let's see the difference. Throw x will change the stack trace, whereas throw will preserve the whole stack trace. Let's try to understand this with the help of code. See here in the code we have used throw x, okay? From main method we called divided by 0 method, which is doing nothing but trying to divide 0 by 0. And therefore it will definitely throw an error, okay? Now we will catch this error in the catch block and then use throw x to send the error details to the main method, okay? Here it will goes inside the catch block and then exception stack trace will be printed, okay? So this is the error printed. This is telling the problem is at line 32, right? But if you see at line 32, we have throw x. The root of the error is not here. Okay, we tried by dividing by divide. So 3x throw x is not the root of the error. So basically, throw x is basically not preserving the actual stack trace, and it is somehow changing the stack trace. All right. So now that is we are trying to 0 by 0. So this is not good. So what we will do, now we will use throw. So this is the example of the throw. See, here is the code. We have just replaced throw x with throw, nothing else. Rest of the body is exactly same. Now we will run it. Again the error that will be printed from here inside the cache block, right? And this will be the error. And this time it is showing carefully, see, it is showing the error is at line 28. And that is what is the right point of the error. That is the root of the error which we were expecting as a developer. We need the logs to give the right point, right? So the reason The reason it is throwing the right error, because throw will not modify the actual stack trace. It will preserve the whole stack trace, and that is good, right? Because now developer can easily locate the error location for after checking the stack trace. Therefore, it's a best practice to use throw, as it preserves the whole stack trace. Sometimes you will not find any difference between throw and throwx if there is only one method. Okay, but if you are calling one method from other method, then you will find the difference. Okay, so that is the difference between the two. Great job for completing the last section. Until last section, we were checking out the basic concepts of C# and OOPS. Now we will slightly increase the level, and you can say it will be level 2 now, because the questions will be from generics and collections, which are slightly more advanced as comparison to the previous ones. This is the list of 9 questions. We will start from the generics, as it is very important. And then I covered all the collections like arraylist, hash table, list, dictionary in differences questions, because in interviews, mostly interviewer asks the questions in differences form only. Many have confusion about IEnumerable, IEnumerator and IQueryable. That also I am going to clear in this section. The approximate duration of all these questions is just around 18 minutes. Explain generics in C#. When and why to use them in real applications? This is a very important question from interview perspective, and even from usage purpose in real application. Let's start with the definition. Generics allows us to make classes and methods type independent or type safe. Now what is type independent? Let's first see the code. See, this is the code. We have a calculator class which have a method r=, and it checks whether two integers are equal or not. If equal, then it will return true, and if not, then it will return false. Okay. Now inside the main method, when we will call this r= method like this, since r= is a static method, we can call it directly, right? Otherwise we have to create the object, the same thing. Okay. Now here we are comparing 4 with 4. It will work and execute properly without any problem. But then this second line where we are sending strings is interview and happy in parameters will not work, because these are strings and our r= method only accepts integer parameters. So this will not work. This is a problem, right? We need a method which can compare any type. So how to solve this problem? How to make so now you know what is type independent. Like this is type dependent. It is integer. It's a like type dependent. So now our generics will make this thing type independent. So let's see how to solve this problem and how to make this type independent. So now for that, one approach is replace this r= method with a new method like this. Here we will accept object as the parameter in the r= method. This will first convert integer or string to object, and it will then compare the object values and then return true or false. This will work and solve our problem, but the problem with this is it involves boxing and unboxing. Okay, because it is converting value type to reference type, integer to object, that is value to reference. This will impact the performance. So this is not the best way. The other way is to create a separate r= method which will accept a string parameter and compare strings, right? Basically to create overload of this method, which is again not the best approach, because number of lines of code will increase. Okay, now this is our way, and that is generics. Now let's see how the generics will make this type independent. So first, to making, see the code here. First look at this r= method and the alphabet T inside angular brackets and the parameter of type T. In this way, we have to make our r= method as a generic method. Generic means now this method can accept any type. T is any type here. Okay, let me show you how it will accept any type. See the main method here. This commented is the old code. Okay, right? Now instead of calling method like this, we will call the generic method like with this type name inside the angular brackets after the method name. Here the type is int. Then when it will call the method, this will pass integer as type, and here the t which is type is accepted as integer. Now if you want to compare the to a string like other than integer like a string, then we will set the type as a string like this. Then the method will accept t as a string and then it will compare the strings. In this way, same method, same r equal will handle both integer and string comparison. I hope now you understand how generics will help you in creating methods which are type independent or type safe. Now remember, t is a type here. You can use any other alphabet also like other than t like xyz, but t somehow relates to type, and mostly in application we use t only, so you should also use t only. Now we will see how to make the class the generic. Like this is method we make the generic. Now we will make the generic class. Okay, see the code here. Here instead of method we will put t in angular brackets in front of class itself, and in method we will only accept parameter as t. Now when you will call r equal math from main method, we will call like this. This time again we are putting the type in front of the class, not in the front of the methods. This will also do the same output, will also function the same way. Class will receive the string or integer type, then it will compare as per that. But there is one benefit of using generic with classes as comparison to methods, and that is, if your class have multiple methods like this, then instead of putting type in front of every method, you should put at one place at the class level. Okay, so then it will be by default applicable to all the methods. So this will make your class a generic class, which is the better way, right? So normally in our projects also we make class generics, okay, not the methods. That is because one step better. So I hope now you understand what is generic, where we use the generics in our application, how generics are making the methods type independent, how generics are not using the boxing and unboxing, how they are improving the performance. So that's it all about the generics. What are collections in C# and what are their types? First, let me share you some points about collection. C# collections are used to store, manage, and manipulate data. For example, when you get data from the database, like you get the list of employees, okay, then how you will manage that data, meaning where you will store them in your application, how you will do the sorting, filtering on this data. For that, we need collections. The ArrayList dictionary are the examples of the collections. Now let me show you the type of the collections. Here are the categories of the collections. We have three categories of the collection in .NET: normal collections, concurrent collections, and generic collections. Remember, these are the categories. But if someone will ask you the type of the collection, then you have to say ArrayList, hash table, dictionary, list. Whatever you know from this list, you should share that. Now the first category is normal collection. These are the basic ones: ArrayList, hash table, queue, and stack. Then we have concurrent collections. These are the thread safe collections in C#, meaning if you are using multi-threading in your application, then these collections can be helpful to you. I will not go into the details of this collection, otherwise it will be a very long video. But then if you know normal collection, then here we have this third category, which is generic collections. They are nothing else like this list is the generic version of the array list. Dictionary is the generic version of hash table. So basically, if you know generic and collections, then this generic collection is very easy for you. What is the difference between array and array list? Let's see the differences with the help of code. Here is the code of array. An integer array is declared, then the items numbers are set to 10, then the first integer value has been assigned to array. Now here, if you will assign any value other than integer like this, then .NET framework will not accept that and show the compiler error. Okay. Similarly, here is the code of ArrayList. An ArrayList has been declared and then its instance has been created, and then items are added inside it. Now here we can store items of different types like integers, strings, any type. Okay. The reason is ArrayList converts this integer and string values to objects. Therefore, ArrayList store objects only, and that is boxing, and we discussed boxing in previous video. So the first difference is array is strongly typed. This means that an array can store only one type of items elements. Like here we are storing the integer. Either string, only one type, no mixing. Whereas ArrayList can store any type of elements. See here in the ArrayList, here there is no type is mentioned, and we can add integer and string, both values like this. Second difference is array can contain fixed number of items. See here we have to give the numbers of items in the array in advance. Here we have assigned 10. If we will not give this number, then it will give an error. On the other hand, ArrayList can store any numbers of items. See, there is no count here. You can add any numbers of items in the ArrayList. So these are the differences between the two. What is the difference between ArrayList and hash table? See the code of ArrayList. In ArrayList, we can only add items or values to the list. See, both of these are values only. Now let's see hash table. In hash table, we can add items values with the keys. See, this is the key and this is its value. Hash table is like a mapping. So when you want to retrieve the values from a hash table collection, then you can directly use the keys to extract its value. This is the benefit of the hash table. So the differences are, in ArrayList, we can only add items or values to the list. Whereas in hash table, we can add items values with the keys. What is the difference between list and dictionary collections? This is a good and important question. Let's see the code first. See here we have a list of employees which have string type, and then we are adding employees name which are string only, right? After that we are iterating the list via this for each loop. Okay, finally this is the output. Now we are getting two things out of list. First, list is a collection of items, okay, and second, it is the generic version of the ArrayList. In ArrayList, we also do the same, except we do not provide the type here. So now you know what is the difference between ArrayList and list. Now let's explore dictionary. Here is the code, and here we are declaring the dictionary employees T. Then we are providing two types. One is integer and another is a string. So basically, this int is the type of the key and this string is the type of the value, and we are using dictionary add method to add the key and value pair in the dictionary collection. Then we are iterating this key value pair using the for each loop, and in the output key the value will be printed in pairs. Okay, so again we have seen two things about dictionary. First is dictionary is a collection of key value pair. Okay, second, it is the generic version of the hash table. In hash table also we have the same key value pair. Okay, now I think you can tell the differences between ArrayList, list, hash table and dictionary collections very easily. What is IEnumerable in C#? In the code here is a list of employee, okay, and in employee class we have ID and name property. Now here we are adding new employees in the code list here, okay, in the list here, okay. Then we are running a for each loop to print the employees ID and names one by one. Now the loop is working for the employee list. This loop is working because how this loop is working? Because the list is derived from IEnumerable interface only. And IEnumerable interface is used when we want to iterate among our collection classes using a for each loop. You might not use it directly, this IEnumerable, but all our collection classes like list which are able to use for each loop are internally using this IEnumerable interface. Like if I will right click on this list collection and go to the definition and see list is derived from the IEnumerable, right? That's it. So internally all the collections are using IEnumerable interface. So then only we are able to iterate the collections through the for each loop. What is the difference between IEnumerable and IEnumerator in C#? Let's see the code first. You know list is using IEnumerable internally, right? And here we are assigning list to IEnumerable and then iterating, okay? And here is the output. Now you can do the same thing using IEnumerator also. See, Here we call getEnumerator method and use moveNext method to iterate through the results, and it will give exactly the same output which IEnumerable was giving. But the difference is IEnumerable code looks simple to implement, right? So basically, IEnumerable internally uses IEnumerator only to iterate the collection via for each loop. But we use IEnumerable because IEnumerable simplifies the use of IEnumerator. See, list is inherited from IEnumerable, and IEnumerable uses IEnumerator interface. And if you right click on IEnumerable and go to the definition, then see, here you will find the getEnumerator method, which is returning the type of the IEnumerator. That's it. Now here is a very important question. What is the difference between IEnumerable and iQueryable in C#? Why to use iQueryable for SQL queries? We already know what is IEnumerable, right? Now we will more focus on iQueryable. First, remember this point about iQueryable. iQueryable inherited from IEnumerable interface only. So anything you can do with IEnumerable, you can also do that with iQueryable also. For example, iterating the collection can be done by both IEnumerable and iQueryable. When you right click and see the definition of iQueryable, you will find this. See, iQueryable is inherited from IEnumerable. So whatever IEnumerable can do, iQueryable can also do. In addition, iQueryable can perform some extra tasks related to SQL queries that I will shortly explain. Okay. Now see the code here. Here we have a list which we are iterating using IEnumerable, and here is the output. Now we can use iQueryable also to iterate the same list, and we will get the same result. Now the point is, why we need iQueryable when IEnumerable is already there? The reason is, IEnumerable is used with and it is preferred with in-memory collections like array, ArrayList. All these are in-memory collections, in-memory objects also you can say. Whereas iQueryable is better in getting results from database. So suppose you want to get records from database through LinkQ. Okay, for that first you will you will use IEnumerable like this. Do not worry about the LinkQ and lambda expression here, that I will explain in other videos. But you are understanding this, right? Here we are getting the records from the employees table, where the employee's name start with H, right? And you will get the filtered result in this list E. Okay. Now the same result you can get by using iQueryable interface also. See the same query and you will get the same result in list Q this time. But the point is, iQueryable will take less time as comparison to IEnumerable. Now let me explain this why. If you use IEnumerable, then first the request will go to the database and bring the whole data from the database. And then the filter the result at the server side here. So bringing the whole data from the network will impact the performance in a negative way, right? Because the data is too much. Okay. On the other hand, if you use iQueryable, then the request will go to the database, filter the data then and there only, and then send back the filtered data, not the whole data, which is good for performance because data is lesser, the filtered data is lesser. So that is the reason iQueryable is better than IEnumerable for SQL queries and database operation. All the points I have explained, I have said are written here only, so that later anyone can refer this PowerPoint and for the revision purpose. One more point, iQueryable is under system.linkQ namespace, whereas IEnumerable is under system.collections namespace. That is all about IEnumerable and iQueryable. This is the second mock interview. In this, we will cover questions on exception handling, loops, and collections. Let's see all the questions. Just notice one thing here. There are so many differences questions here. Interviewers love differences questions because by asking them, they can check two concepts at same time. You can now pause the video and think about the answers of these questions. If you are done analyzing them, then that is great, and let's move ahead.